understand. So let's start.
Okay.
Okay, material motion. This is quite interesting. It describes the spatial relationships, the functionality and the intention of what's happening in the interface with beauty and fluidity. These are some aspects that we will see coming over and over in their guidelines, the spatial relationships, and especially, and the intention and focus. We will see them in detail now. So there is an introductory video. We are not going to look at it because essentially it's a couple of minutes long and it shows you some of the animations that we will see anyway in the guidelines. So why does motion matter? This is quite important for what we're doing. It shows how an app is organized and what it can do. So it helps you understand what is happening in the interface. Let's say you tap on a button, for example. Without animation, the next screen could appear quite dramatically. Instead, an animation smooth.
Okay, it's like a transition.
Yes, exactly. It's used to guide both your eyes and to let you understand what was the intention of the designer in what's happening between one interface and the other. So that's how animation should be used. And that's why it's important, because it actually conveys information. When it's done correctly, it helps you understand more of what's going on in the interface. It makes it feel more natural, more realistic, and definitely it helps you understand what's the purpose behind it.
So it's not just there for the purpose of being animated. It's
Exactly.
there for much more than that.
And this guideline is all about that. It's all about telling you why you should move things in a certain way, right? And it all makes sense once you study it. It's really good. It's really well done. So as you can see, motion provides guided focus between views, hints at what will happen if a user completes a gesture, spatial relationships between elements, distraction from what's happening behind the scenes, fetching content or loading next view, and so on. So how does material move? We are not going to read it all, but I think this introduction it's quite it deserves to be read. So the material environment draws inspiration from real-world forces, such as gravity and friction. Now, physics is going to be quite important for these guidelines. Also, in the Apple animations, whenever you move a menu up and down, you will see that things actually move and bounce and slow down as they move, because physics has always been front and center, even for Apple. And it's a metaphor. Even the usage of physics is a metaphor for us as humans to interpret what's going on in the interface. Otherwise, it feels unnatural, then you disconnect to it. If instead it feels natural, it's much easier for you to interact with it.
It's more intuitive.
Yes, yes. So these forces are reflected in the way user input affects elements on screen and how elements react to each other, right? So these are the characteristics of material in motion. It's responsive. So material is full of energy. It quickly responds to user input precisely where the user triggers it. Responsive, it means that it reacts promptly to your input. If it's too low, it feels sluggish. If it's too fast,
you feel like it's out of your control.
Yes. So that's what they're doing. Here, there are other two examples. So ink ripples, it's when you touch the interface, then that ripple propagates from the point of where you touch to the rest of the card. And plus, as you touch it, you will see that there is a shadow right under it. You see, it suggests the fact that it's coming towards you. Now, this is quite interesting. It shows the connection between new surfaces and the element or action that creates them. So, as you can see here, the user taps this icon and then the card expands from the icon, from where you touch. So there is a spatial relationship between where you touch and the animation itself. It should be natural. So this is quite interesting too. This is called easing. So easing is like, it's an algorithm that defines how the animation starts and ends. Without easing, the animation is called linear. You see the red one is linear. So you look at this one. This one has no easing. It's a linear animation. So you will see that it travels always at the same speed.
The whole time.
Exactly. The other one instead has an easing applied. This easing makes it look like it's the animation is starting and then decelerating. It makes it feel a lot more natural. And now we will see that in material design, everything animates using these easings to make it feel a lot more natural. So real-world forces, like gravity, inspire an element's movement along an arc rather than a straight line. Because this is like if gravity was pulling the element and curving it.
Okay.
Okay, can you see that?
Yeah.
It makes sense. That doesn't mean that everything should move on a curved arc. We will see later the cases that they specify. But it's quite interesting the fact that they talk about real-world forces and gravity and physics. Material transformation follow an arc of movement. So as you can see here, there is an arc.
Okay. It's a similar curved thing.
Yeah, exactly. And again, they will explain that in more detail.
Okay.
Material is aware of its surroundings. So what means is like material can interact with itself. It's almost alive. They say aware, almost smart. So it can be attracted to objects and respond appropriately to the user intent. And again, here there is a link to the last section, which is choreography. And choreography defines how the different pieces move together to create one consistent animation.
Like a dance.
Yeah, exactly.
Okay, so it can also, different elements can join together and they can also move them away from each other.
Yes, exactly.
Depending on what their intention is or their purpose.
Absolutely. In this case, we see that material can push other material out of the way.
How do you decide which approach to use, whether it's better to push something or to mutate them together?
We will see later that there is a section just for that.
Okay.
This is also interesting. Elements may attract other elements. So you can see that it attracts the other pieces of, the other buttons actually, but the other pieces of material get attracted and change the center circle. So this is all about the fact that material can be smart or behave in a smart way, and it definitely comes alive. So it's also intentional. Here they talk about guiding focus, and this is really a very important principle of all the guidelines. What they do is they try to declutter the interface a lot and focus your attention only to one element. So we'll see it later. This is an example that later they will describe much better. Movement can communicate different signals, such as whether an action is unavailable. Okay, they will explain this later again. So you see here, this is kind of elastic, means you cannot perform that operation. Instead, in the second case, the card will actually travel all the way. So you understand that
it has the freedom to move, so it has the freedom to continue doing the purpose that's associated with it.
So you see again here, animation must be used in this way to communicate something. You don't use words. It's not visual in the sense that the piece of material is always the same, but the way it reacts to your input, the way it animates, conveys something, some information about what can be done or what can be achieved.
It's a much cleaner way of communicating information.
Yes. It's more direct.
Yeah.
In that you see cleaner or clearer, I think it's more direct because you don't need words or you don't need to interpret visual elements. Yeah. It feels really natural. Or animations can bring focus. So here they're animating the icon and it almost looks like it's vibrating. So it's like the phone is ringing. So again, it's smart. It's conveying something more. It's never just animated for the sake of having an animation. What makes a good transition? These are the characteristics of a good transition. So motion is quick. Okay, so these are sets of the do and don't. On the left we have the do. On the right we have the don't. Okay, the do is much faster than the don't. The don't makes you wait for the animations to complete. So they stress this quite a lot. The interface should be fast and should respond very quickly. animate quickly. And again, they say staggering and slowing the movement of many elements can lengthen the duration. You can see here, the content in the card appears all together at the same time. In the don't example instead,
one by one.
Exactly, staggering the animations at the end make it much longer for the animation to complete.
When you want to achieve something, you don't want to, you're not interested in seeing something that looks pretty. You want it to
exactly
come up.
Exactly. Transitions should be clear, simple, and coherent. They should avoid doing too much at once.
Yeah.
This again has something to do with focus. It's connected to the principle of focus. When too many things are moving at the same time, your brain has a hard time understanding what's going on. If instead your focus is the main action, it's much easier to interpret. Motion is cohesive. So material elements are unified by the speed, responsiveness, as intention. Any customizations to your app's motion experience should be consistent throughout the app. So here they're showing 3 different applications, but they show that they all behave in the same way. That's because they use these guidelines. So that's exactly what they're trying to convey here, that it's cohesive. And that's why there are guidelines to create one experience for the user so that it all feels part of the same family. Implications of motions. So on the left we see an example that uses the guidelines to animate the card. On the right instead we see an example where the app doesn't have any animation. You see the appearance of the next screen. It is immediate. So you can see that it feels much less natural. It's so sudden, it's almost disturbing. That's another good point, the fact that the transition guides the user to the next view. So as I tap here, then the animation goes up and it guides me into the next interface.
You can see that you're being taken from what you clicked on or tapped on immediately to that same thing. You can see the link between the two.
Exactly, it expands.
Yeah, the other one, you almost feel like, hang on a minute, I forgot what I clicked on, or is this actually what I wanted to look at?
Yeah. I'd say that it takes you a split second to reevaluate what's happening.
Yeah.